Hello and welcome to the LinkedIn Questions webinar. This is a follow-up to the Reinvent Your Career Expo held in Melbourne on the weekend of the 30th and 31st of May 2015, and also as a result of the RE Australian Human Resources Institute LinkedIn Students webinar that we ran today as well. So great to have you on board and thank you for joining us. And there's a variety of questions that I've already been asked, and also an opportunity for some of you to have your LinkedIn profiles reviewed. So more than happy to answer lots of questions and also give you lots and lots of tips in this LinkedIn Questions webinar. So let's get started. First of all, I'd like to remind you to, put your questions up whilst you're here and in the chat box so that I can see them as we discuss things. And also I will try and share my screen with you so that you can actually see what's happening and we, get a good example of what's actually happening throughout. Okay, so one of the first things that happened was that the questions that we had earlier today was around the keywords and the importance of keywords and making sure that the search results really do work if you've got the good quality keywords on your profile. And it's really interesting that this is a question that comes up a lot because obviously people want to be able to make their profile perform for them. So yeah, thank you for that question and a really good suggestion of something that we can kickstart off this webinar with. So I'm going to screen share and you will actually be able to see me live on my LinkedIn profile. So that will be interesting. And this is the first time I'm trying this, so we'll see how we go here. And I assume that we're all going live and you can now see what's happening here. So we'll come back to Dominda's profile shortly. But first of all, I'd like to run through some search results for you. So a lot of people that I work with are in HR. And if I was a recruiter and I was looking for instance, an HR coordinator, and I wanted them to have some experience using SAP. That might be a computer program that I want them to specifically be using. And I've got a lot of connections, so I'm happy to look at people who are first and second level connections, as well as perhaps group members, third, and everyone else. So I'm happy to look regardless of their connection level to me. And I'll say within Australia, and I can click search. And this is the exact same type of search that somebody would do if they were using LinkedIn Recruiter. So if we look at the search results, and this is obviously based on the people that I'm connected to, and we can see that Bram Kotze has come up first. And we can also see that he has the word HR in his headline. He has the word SAP in his current job title as well as in his past job title. So we can immediately see that by having those keywords in those particular sections of his profile, he's come up first in the Google search results. What we can also see is that somebody who doesn't have HR or SAP in their headline still manages to come up when they have that keyword in their past job title. If we dig a little bit deeper, we can also see that in Susan's profile, in her education section is also appearing on the screen. So she's actually getting quite a bit of screen real estate here in her search results, but also she is a LinkedIn premium member. So that's helped her come up, very high in search results. So there's a couple of influences there on how these people have been chosen. And obviously, if you did a similar search, you would probably end up with slightly different results. But as an HR manager or recruiter looking for somebody with that experience, I would type those keywords in and search by location as a general rule. If I was looking for somebody who had experience, say, in banking, I would probably not bother typing in the name of the bank in the company, because I have found with LinkedIn search results it doesn't always work the best, but I might type in Westpac, for instance, and see what comes up. And we can see here Fernando, who's been a HR support coordinator, actually in the Westpac group. So, you know, but he's in Sydney, but he's still come up in the first of search results because he's most closely aligned to my search query. So you can really see how having those keywords in the headline is really important for this person. Now, likewise, if you turned around and said HR officer, which is a sort of an older term that might be used, and we again do a search, we can see that Hayley comes up. Now, this is really interesting because she's actually got a premium account, but look at how much screen real estate she has on the screen here. It's a huge amount of screen real estate, and that's because she's got her keywords not, as it turns out, in her headline, but in her current job title, her past job title, and her education. You can see that she's got quite a little bit of information that's being picked off there, whereas Ross, who's not a premium member, doesn't have quite so much information being published. The other thing I like to sort of talk about in terms of, you know, keywords and their performance in search results is obviously that's important, but user experience is also important. So if we look at these candidates here, Hayley, Ross, Wendy, Liz, just by their photo, I'm quite sure that if I picked my first priority person, it would possibly be different to your first priority person. But my goal is always to be able to see the face. And out of those pictures, I'd probably say, even though it's got a, you know, a cluttered background, Liz's face stands out the most. I can see her face the most, but I'd probably choose Ross as a general rule because he's got that light coloured background and it makes his face fairly easy to see in the picture. You can see with Wendy's photo that half of it's in shade and it's got this big bright light on her hair. So again, it detracts from her eyes. And Hayley has got quite a dark background, looks, I don't know, a little bit gloomy, from, you know, just a general view on this very small square on my computer screen. So you can see that that really does make a bit of a difference from the user experience as to whether or not people would be interested in looking at her profile. Okay. All right, so going back to questions, I'm looking forward to having those come through to you. So, you know, please jot your questions in and I'll happily answer those as well. I trust that you can all see the screen live. If you can't for any reason, please do let me know via the chat as well. And yeah, we'll keep moving on with a couple of other things. So hopefully by now we have our other participant and mentioned that I'd be looking at his profile. So we'll just go back to that. Duminder Sakara. Okay, so it's a little bit difficult for me to fully assess Duminder's profile because I'm not sure of what his purpose is or what his keywords he's trying to optimize are. But if it was engineer alone, I'd say, well, he's at least got that engineer job title in his headline. So that's one good thing. But unfortunately, there's not too many other keywords there. And I definitely suggest that if he really wants to optimize his profile, there's 2.5 lines worth of text that you can put in there. And this will automatically choose your current job title. But if you're really looking for opportunities, you need to include a lot of keywords in there. If I look at his contact information, I can see the mobile number there. I normally put spaces in between the numbers just so it's a little bit easier to read. And I would also suggest that he edit his public profile URL so that it just has his name rather than this version of LinkedIn. And to be able to do that, I'll just quickly swap over to my LinkedIn profile and show you where you can do that. So if you're on the profile page, you can just see this little cog next to your URL. And if you click that and then type in over here, you can make your own public profile URL. If it's available, of course. If it's not available, you can try choosing another one, perhaps with a number on the end of it or some particular character that you like, etc. But remember that if you do change it and then change your mind, you can't go back to the previous URL that you've had. So if I change mine to a different name or something from tomorrow, Sue Ellson Newcomers Network, for instance, I wouldn't be able to transfer it back to Sue Ellson. So be very careful when you do change your public profile URL. He could also include links to websites or put in his address, that sort of information in there. I'll just quickly look and see if he has advice for contacting, and that's not mentioned here. So it would be really good to have that completed as well, so that if somebody was looking at his profile and didn't have access to his account, even though he's a premium member, they could still contact him immediately. Now, the next thing is he's got a great number of keywords here in his summary, but unfortunately, it's very difficult from a user experience to read those. So as a general rule, I like to see skills listed as a list. So if all of these were in a long list, automotive and building window films, and then the next one, facade engineering, and the next one, tapes and adhesives, etc., that would make it a lot easier to interpret that information. He should also, in this summary section, have contact details, and he could put his email address, but put a space between the first part and the @ and the last part, just so that if a robot is scanning this text, it doesn't actually find his email address and start spamming him. As a technical services engineer, I'm sure there's quite a lot of key skills that he could highlight there. And this is another great spot to put your keywords. So if you look at my profile for my current job, I actually mention quite a few keywords here: careers, LinkedIn, trainer, presenter, writer, networker, webmaster. So lots of keywords are in my actual job headline there. So again, Dominda, you can definitely put that here in your current job title. So if you wanted to just mention technical services engineer, then you could put dash and then put some extra keywords after that as well. Moving on from there, any words that are joined together with that slash mark are read in search results as one word. So that word is not obviously going to be recognized in a search query. So it'd be better to put specialist space slash space engineer to make sure that that word is actually found. It's really good that you've got the title engineer in most of these roles, because that obviously would make you rank well for engineer. You've also got your skills listed in voting order here. And if you wanted to be really known for management, for instance, you could drag that one up to the top and try and have it, that more people look for you in a management capacity. So consider, changing your order. And if any of these are not really relevant, I mean, what is commissioning? I don't really know. Would anybody be searching for that? I'm not sure. So that may or may not be a skill that you'd like to take out, because it's possibly not what somebody would necessarily be looking for, unless it's something really specific in your area. And unfortunately, living in Australia as I do, I have no idea of anything about this particular university. So I would really encourage you to describe the university, but also the subjects that you completed in your master's course, because I think that would be very interesting, and for other people to know what that particular course program has. It's more keywords, and education is one of the sections where people do look for actual keywords and where the search bots do. BSc is the abbreviation. I'd probably put the word science there so that you can rank for that as well. Terrific that you've mentioned organisations here. You can separate those by commas to make sure that each one is identified separately. And as a general rule, I don't normally write ampersands. I normally write the word and if there's enough characters wherever I am. It's wonderful that you've got certifications, and if any of these are with an organisation that has a company profile on LinkedIn, it's really good for you to write that name out so that it shows. So if I show you on mine, I'm a professional member of the Australian Institute of Management and the Australian Human Resources Institute, and because they're listed on LinkedIn, their nice snazzy logo comes up on my profile when I list it as a certification. So whether you're a member, a professional member of an association, or you have a formal certification through a particular organisation, you can list both of them in the certifications section of your LinkedIn profile. Terrific that you've put English first and then your second language. It's also a good idea to mention what sort of proficiency you have in that language. really great to describe these things here. I've heard of ISEC before, but I know a lot of people haven't, so it could be a good idea to explain what oh, here it is. ISEC is the international. Yep, so that's great. And causes you care about, that's all really good. And as I said, there's a couple of sections that you could add, things like publications and so on. So you'll see the sections that you can add up the top of your profile. If you've got any posts, I'll just go back to my profile page. And these little coloured boxes here are the ones where you can add sections. Now, I don't have a patent, so I can't fill that one in. And I don't believe, as an ex-banker, that I should give out my private personal details. So I haven't filled that one in. But for a lot of people, they've got several boxes there that they could complete and add to their profile. So definitely worth doing that as well. So Daminda, I hope that's a little bit of a start on what you could do in your profile. Okay, so we'll come back here and see if there's some questions coming through. I'll just bring up the screen to this. Okay, good. All right. Well, I shall keep going. And the next question was related to who should I connect to? And this is probably one of my most popular questions that I ever get asked when I doing webinars on LinkedIn or running any sort of session. You know, who should I connect to? And there's some really good predictors as to whether it should be someone you should connect to. One of the first things to check is how many connections they've got. So if they've got 5 connections, that's probably not a good sign. You can also, when you visit my profile, you will see up the top of the screen my number here. And that's the number of when I joined LinkedIn. And so you can see that I'm one of the first 100,000 people on the platform. I joined on the 21st of December 2003. So when you look at that number, if it's a long way before your profile, then they've probably been around a while. If it's a long way after the number of your profile, you might want to check into that and see whether it's a current profile or not. It's also a good idea to see how much they've completed. Now you can see I've got heaps of stuff completed here. I've got a number of recommendations on my profile. I've got bits of bling. So, you know, normally the scammers can't be bothered doing all that work. And particularly in the summary section, if you can see that that's, you know, there's 2,000 characters here. If most of that has been completed, then that's actually a pretty good sign that, you know, the person could be genuine. It's also a good idea to check out any qualifications that they have, and also if they've included their contact details, and perhaps even if you share any connections with that person, that should also come up on your screen. So there's a couple of tips to work out who to connect to. But I've had some interesting emails over the time, and I don't know whether I can search my inbox, but a number of the people say I have beautiful eyes. So let me see if I can find one of those messages. Let's have a look. Yes, oh, that one's been deleted already. Let's have a quick look at this one. No, okay. Looks like, as you can tell, LinkedIn is pretty good at removing spammers. And I am very clear about, you know, saying that I'm only here for business purposes. So here, if we just look at this little bit of dialogue here, you know, thank you for the connection. I do not know why I'm so excited about this, but I guess time will tell. It'll be really nice to get to know you. Wish you a beautiful day. I mean, that's obviously a spammer, and you can see here that they've already been removed. So yeah, that's pretty clear. The other way, if you do end up accidentally connecting with somebody that you don't like, what you can do is you can just go to the list of all of your connections and do this drop down box. And if I didn't want to be connected to Daminda again, I could just click the remove connection. Now that won't notify Daminda that I've removed him, but it will just disconnect the two of us. So that's another way to clear up that particular issue as well. Moving on from that one, there's another really great question here about, messaging people. And it's really interesting that you can sort a lot of the people who you are connected to. So at the moment, we'll go back to Daminder's profile as well. I have not given him a tag for any of the groups that I sort people by, but if I wanted to, you know, and I had a group here for engineers, then I could tag him and give a little tick, and that would, you know, put the tag category up here, and then I could sort. So one of the searches that I did last night, I went to my connections and I sorted by first name all of my contacts that were in HR. So I selected my human resources tag, and if we just wait a few moments, it will actually tell me how many of my connections I've actually tagged with human resources. So that should come up fairly soon. It normally comes up around here. Oh no, but we don't want that. Maybe it's not going to come up now, but it's a very long list, put it this way. And anyway, if I want to message, I can only message on the free account 50 people at a time. So I would count through, seeing as they're sorted in first name order, the first 50 people on this list, and so on and so forth. And then I can just click message. 564, that was my search result there. And the first thing I must do is untick this box, because these people don't need to all know that I'm sending a message. And I could talk to them about LinkedIn, webinar, tomorrow, and type up my message, blah, blah, blah. If I wanted to attach some sort of picture or file, whatever, I can do that. And then I can send the message, and that will automatically go to all of those people via LinkedIn. So that's a really great way to message people through LinkedIn, all aligned to a particular tag that you have. So if you're going to do some networking and keeping in touch with various people, that's a great way to do it. So think about sorting your contacts by tag. I definitely encourage you to do it before, you know, from the very beginning, because if you look now and see my profile and we go to my connections page, it will tell me the number of connections I have here in a moment, and 6,863. So if I go back and tag all of these people, that's going to take me an awfully long time to do that. So, you know, if you do that at the beginning, it makes it an awful lot easier. All right, I'll just quickly go back into the Hangout and see if we've got any questions appearing yet. Nothing showing up here. The other thing I can actually suggest to you is that if you'd like to send a message and it's not getting through by chat for any reason, please just email me, and the email address is sueellson@sueellson.com, and that will enable you to reach out to me. I'll just turn on my email in the background whilst we're going, hopefully not show you all my thousands of messages. But if anything comes through, then, oops, I actually closed it all together then. We just need to minus it. We'll see if any other messages come through. Okay, so moving on from there, I did have a request for somebody else to review their profile. So that was from Thunder or something or another, I think the name was. So if we just go back to here, from Thanuj, yes. So if you've got your LinkedIn profile URL that you can send through to me whilst we're on the call, then I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, I'm not sure who you are because there's lots of people here on LinkedIn with that. So if you've got your profile URL and you can message that through to me, then I can obviously check your profile also. All right, some other questions that I have received coming through now in relation to your photo. And your photo is a topic that I could actually talk about for a very long period of time. And I've actually got a few profile photos that I like, but rather than show you those right now, what I'll do is I'll do another LinkedIn search, and what we'll do is we'll analyze some of the photos that come up. So let's go back to looking for an engineer, and this time we'll look for a mechanical engineer, and we would like some experience with project management as well. And we'll say in Melbourne. All right, so if we look directly at these photos, Michael's photo at the top where he's sitting there strumming the guitar is an interesting one. It certainly shows that he's also interested in music, and I have heard in the past that some people have actually got music gigs off of LinkedIn by having a picture of them playing an instrument in their profile photo. But it's also important to think, well, is this the image I want to create as a mechanical engineer? And if you were going for a senior project management role, you know, would people think, oh, well, they'd rather be playing the guitar or being in the role? It's a bit hard to tell. But also the challenge that I have with that particular photo is that I can't see his face. I think I can tell he's wearing glasses and he's got brown hair, but that's about it. Joel's photo, he's not smiling. And in Australia, I think most of us like to see people who are smiling with their teeth showing, which is definitely what Michael's doing in the next photo. But he's also looking a little bit casual, just wearing a T-shirt there. And but he is outdoors, and most of his face I can see, although there is sort of half the face in shade. But what's happening with Michael's photo is because his head is sort of slightly to the right, my eye is sort of concentrated here on this greenery instead of looking over here at the text. So if he moved that photo and put his head more towards this side and kept the greenery on this side, then it would actually drag my eye to the right, and that would actually be quite useful. Paul looks like he has a light sticking on top of his head. It's just an unfortunate position of the photo there. But again, it's a little bit hard to see, and I'm a little bit distracted by the background. So if we'd zoomed in a little bit there, that would have been a lot easier to see his photos. So in general, what I like to see, as I've indicated before, is, you know, looking at the camera, smiling with your teeth showing, and preferably with a lighter coloured background, head and shoulders only. What's happening here with Joel and his neckline is because that neck is there and I can't quite see where it all ends, I end up looking at that V. Whereas if the photo was taken a little bit further down and I could see the top of his shirt, I would end up focusing my eyes just on his face. So it's another little tip. Don't have skin at the edge of your photograph. Michael's is better because, you know, that T-shirt top you know, makes the face stand out. I also like photos that are a little bit quirky and tell a story. So, for example, there was a guy who was in engineering, but he was a safety manager. And so his profile photo had a hard hat, safety glasses and a high-vis vest on. And I thought, wow, you know, I really believe that that guy's a safety manager because he's wearing that that outfit, and it sort of fits in with his purpose, and he wanted a safety management role. So that was a really, you know, cool suggestion and good. A couple of other tips I've heard is about keeping the eye at the 1/3 level of the photograph. It makes you more influential. So you could, you know, Joel could perhaps move his photo up a little bit. And there's also a really great website called Photo Feeler. So I'll just pop that in the chat box as well. And what you can do there is you can upload your photo, and then people will assess you on your likability, your influence, your competence, and so on. So yeah, it's really good to be able to see your photo there and see how it rates. I warn you now that it is based on a lot of Americans look at that particular website, so it's not necessarily the best way to judge your photo, particularly if you're, you know, in the Australian marketplace. But it is a really good, you know, sort of general heads up. So if I just log into my Photo Feeler account, I'll just show you a couple of interesting little sides from it, because I found this, you know, really quite interesting. Okay, I'll just... Right, maybe I won't. Maybe we'll log in with LinkedIn. Okay, so here you can see I've had 40 votes, And I'm measured on competence is my highest ranking, likable second, and influence third. And that actually suits me really well because I don't want to be seen as too influential. I want somebody to consider me as an expert who they can come to for advice. I'm not running for office and for government, so I don't need to be influential. I don't need to be the CEO of an organisation. I'm more of a technical expert. So that's really interesting there. That's from the rankings of people who've actually looked at me. If it compares to other ranks on Photo Feeler, then you can see that I'm actually more influential than a lot of the other people who are on Photo Feeler. So that's quite interesting as well. But I still rank really highly for competence, and that's really what I want to be known for. They also give you some notes, and I've got some notes where people suggest they'd like a different expression or background. A different outfit seems to be a fairly popular choice, and zoomed out instead of so close in. And again, the different outfits. So, you know, that was all available free of charge, and I found that really useful. And you can submit additional photos, and, you know, there's a dating one as well here. So, you know, quite a handy little tool for you if you want to get your photo looked at and assessed by somebody else. Now, all I've got to do is work out how to log out of it. It's not going to let me. Okay, we'll sort that out later. Okay, next question is related to the summary section and whether they should write it in the first person or the third person. So I think it's really important to write in the third person. That's my preference, because if I'm wanting to read about somebody else, you know, say it's Sam's profile, and if I read I when I'm reading about Sam, I start thinking about me because my name is I, not Sam's. Whereas if I was reading Sam does this and Sam does that, that would be a lot easier for me to understand. So I find it, you know, much better to have that type of policy in your summary. You'll also notice in my summary that I've made the easiest part to read what I actually want out of business, you know, and that's my purpose here. And the stuff that I'm not so worried about whether they read or not is in long form, in sentences. But that's all I've got, 2,000 characters, which is not a lot to tell my story. So I've tried to maximise it with the information that I believe is most relevant for people choosing whether or not to work with me. Okay, question is, can you demonstrate how to filter jobs on LinkedIn? Thank you for that question. All right, filter jobs. It's really interesting looking at jobs on LinkedIn, and obviously I don't look for jobs on LinkedIn because I get plenty of work as it's set. Once you click on the jobs tab, you can set certain preferences. So you can choose what locations you'd like to work in, what levels of seniority, what size company, and what particular industries you would be interested in. So they're all preferences that you can make, but you can also just sort by job title. So, you know, I could say engineer, Melbourne, and project management, again, as I did before. And bear in mind that LinkedIn is going to be tracking all this and then make more recommendations for you. So this has brought up some jobs. And if I look at this particular job, I'll be able to see whether or not I can apply for that job directly through LinkedIn or via the company website. And I've lucked out tonight. It says that I can actually apply, sneeze, sorry. Pardon me, directly through LinkedIn. Some job posters will require you to apply via the company website. But the job description is really, really important to look at because anything that you prepare in relation to this job application should reference all of these. So City Recruitment has been very good at providing a video, sharing some updates. They've got other jobs. So they're obviously a recruiter who's looking for this role, and it's an urgent requirement. So obviously they're looking for somebody with business intelligence and data specific software experience. And so these recruiters are looking for somebody who has all of these things mentioned when they apply for the job. So all of this content, as much of it as you can, should be included in a cover letter. So if I hit the apply now button, I could be extremely lazy and just hit submit. And I guarantee you, City Recruitment will never contact me because A, I've got nothing in my headline that relates to this job, but B, I took no time whatsoever in applying for this particular role. But if I choose upload a file, I have the opportunity to choose one file that I can upload. And they've said here, by inference, it can be either a resume or a cover letter. But what I suggest you do is you actually create what I call an application. And your application will have on the first page your resume, your cover letter, and the rest of the pages would be your resume, tailored specifically for this job as a BI data software engineer in Melbourne. And I have had 100% success rate. Everybody who has tailored their cover letter to match the job description and has included their resume in that application file and attached it has got an interview. So that's just one quick tip if you're going to be applying for jobs. People do want to see it. So when you write your cover letter, it's literally a case of, hello, have we got this person's name here? No, City Recruitment. I'd like to apply for the position of BI/data software engineer. I have worked on several large projects based in Melbourne before. I have business intelligence and data specific software experience. I have, and then you can dot point all the other skills that you have. So use software development tools, Python, Java, C#, C++, etc., 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 etc. So, I've enjoyed participating in hackathons. I've involved in company incentives where I've, scored excellent results from completing my work on time, whatever. You need to make sure that everything is specifically related. And even if your cover letter goes for 2 pages, I really don't mind. If it's easy to read and it matches all of this information, you have a very high chance of getting an interview. And even if you don't have the skills, say you're missing, 3 of these platforms or something, what you can say, I've got 2 of the platforms, Hadoop and MapR, but I'm willing to learn Cognos and blah, blah, blah in my own time if necessary. So, you can also mention that you're willing to be mentored and you're willing to undergo further training through the organisation as well. So, lots of ways to make sure that your application is put on the top of the pile. Another aspect to consider if you are applying for jobs, if you are a premium member and you apply for that position, you will come up higher in the list of job applicants for that position. So the premium members go up the top of the list and the non-premium members go further down the list. So just a little heads up there on that one. Okay, we'll try and get back to the screen where we've got questions. And we've done that one. Oh, so Nudge and Dominda is the same person. Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you for letting me know that. We've done that task now, so that's really good. It's interesting when people use different names on their Google Plus profile compared to their LinkedIn profile. So while we're on the topic of Google Plus, I will just show you another quick trick with Google Plus, because 95% of decision makers will Google you when you are applying for a job. So to do that and make the search results come up the best they can be, what I'll do is I'll just Google me and you'll see that there's a variety of search results come up: LinkedIn, Sue Ellson, Newcomers Network, Facebook, Google+, Antil, Open Forum, Manningham Business Network, etc. Okay, now if we again look at my Google Plus profile, so we'll just go to Google Plus and we'll look at my profile here. What you'll be able to tell on my About page is all about where else I am online. So remember, you saw LinkedIn, you saw Facebook, you saw Newcomers Network, you saw Open Forum. Antil is also known as Not So Freaky University. So all of those things that were on the first page of search results have been helped by me telling Google this is all the locations where I am. And if you click on this particular link, this goes to a page on my website that has a lot of articles and that links to where those articles are online. So you can see here, there's that Australian Business Women's Network article. So I've actually been able to tell Google, Tiny Buddha, here's where I am, and if there's any that I haven't listed individually, then this page will link to all of them, because this is a list of my publications. If you're really interested in tips on LinkedIn and careers and business and so on, you're also welcome to have a look at some of my other presentations on my website. So today I've uploaded, being the 3rd of June, the seminar that I did for ARI today. So if you click on here, you can see the slides, you can download the audio recording and listen to everything that we chatted about today. You can see the ad that is as it appeared on the ARI website and the text. And then you can also see a little bit of feedback that I received from today's presentation. So really appreciated that feedback. And you're welcome, if you wish, after you've done that, to submit your own review. You can just click that little button there and provide your review on the presentation as well. So that's all over my website. If you haven't already, I do recommend that you purchase your own name.com as a domain name. I purchased my domain names through crazydomains.com.au. It's fairly cheap. And that way, even if you don't publish anything right now, when you publish something on your own website, maybe in 5 years' time, Google will see it as a 5-year-old website. So that'll be really good for you. And plus the fact you don't want somebody else to pinch your domain name. So you don't have to publish anything there immediately, but purchasing your domain name as a .com, I think is quite a good business branding strategy. If you type in sueellson.com.au, I've also purchased that. But what I've done is I've set up a redirect. So if somebody does type that into Google, it just automatically redirects to my sueellson.com website. It also looks like I'm a bit more serious about being in the IT space by having my own email address rather than sueellson@gmail.com, which I only use as an archive address. So please don't email me there. I won't see it. I'll only see it if it goes to sueellson at sueellson.com or one of those other email addresses there. Okay, do we have any more questions? Just triple checking here, and also the group chat. So we're 42 minutes in. This is going to work best for you if you ask me the questions that you're really interested in. And it doesn't matter if you think they're very boring or silly questions. Complicated is even better. That makes it much more interesting for the other people on the call. And also, you know, it's a good way for you to find out. I mean, this is free advice you're getting, and it's really helpful for you if you ask the questions that you really have. So please do not be shy. Another thing that I like to mention in terms of LinkedIn profiles now is really about making sure that you position yourself well with whatever you write on your profile. So I talk about keywords. So you'll see that I've got particular keywords, and one of those keywords is around training. And I've done a lot of training, and I actually started my training career way back in 1987. And when I was at Westpac. So you can see there, training officer. And I've also mentioned that word trainer up in my job title for that old job that finished way back in 1994. And you'll see that I've also mentioned training or trainer and, you know, other job titles as well as you go throughout my program, my profile, sorry. And that's because I really want people to understand that training is a big part of who I am and the skills that I bring. But also in terms of your resume, if you've got keywords that you want to be known for, so just as Duminder had engineer in lots of his previous roles, that is a really good thing, because what ends up happening is it calculates that I've actually got experience dating from 1982 on that particular skill. So if I said up in my summary that I've got experience since 1987 on my in training, and the person wasn't born till 1990, they're going to think I'm ancient history. You know, I'm as old as the hills. So I don't want to say I've got so many years of experience. I only want to describe my value, and by putting my keywords in according to date, it's automatically sharing my value. So for instance, if I decided, look, I'm sick of training, I don't want to be in front of people anymore, I want to turn into a hermit and I want to write, and I don't want anybody to contact me, what I could actually do is change my LinkedIn profile around and talk about all the writing work that I've done in all of my previous roles and make that a feature of my LinkedIn profile, and then I'd get a lot more writing inquiries. So that really helps. I also find that most of the people who contact me are just ready to book an appointment because I make it really, really clear in my profile that this is what I do, that's how much it is, and that sort of helps the people make a decision as to whether they can afford it or not. And if you do a little bit of digging, you'll find that most career advisors charge a lot more than that, as it turns out, and they're all worth it because they've got a lot of qualifications and experience to do it. And I've put my marker at that point because a lot of the people I work with are new to Australia and very concerned about spending any money soon after they've arrived. So I've priced my services accordingly, and so I think it's amazing value. And if you think about how much you earn per week, and if you can get a job that you really desire within 3 months or 2 months of arriving, when the normal time frame is up to 2 years, getting into an equivalent level position, it's certainly worth that investment. So, definitely encourage you, if you've been thinking about it, to consider having your profile updated and reviewed, where we interact and we actually talk together about what you're trying to achieve and what you would like to do out of that. All right, so really waiting for your questions. Excellent, got another one. Normally we customize our resume for jobs, but LinkedIn is a general profile. How do you tackle this if you are a job seeker on LinkedIn? Okay, so I have had a huge amount of experience in a huge range of areas. But at some point in time, I have to make a choice as to what sorts of areas I'd like to focus on. So a couple of years ago, I made the decision that I wanted people to know me as a LinkedIn specialist. And so that's when I started changing my content to focus on that particular thing. However, as you can tell, again, by my profile, I've left my options open by including a couple of other keywords. So if we go back to the profile again, we can see here that I don't just put LinkedIn in my headline here. I've put careers, training, writing, newcomers, HR, marketing, etc. So I do still get quite a bit of work for people, helping them with their social media profiles. I work with schools and universities on that. I work with students. I work with business owners. One of my clients has won an award for the last 3 years running in her industry because of the work that we've done profiling her online and out in the real world. So I've ended up picking up all sorts of work, but I guess for people to be able to refer work to me, they need to know what I'm about. So I have to give them a label, because if I say to somebody, well, I do LinkedIn and I teach at the CAE and I work in outplacement and I'm a consultant for NetExpat, which is an international company, and I've got individual clients and I manage their websites and I do this and I do that, nobody can refer anything to me because they think, wow, Sue does everything. I don't know how I can refer. And the three main ways that new arrivals to Australia get work are through networking, referrals, and voluntary work. So if we think about the referral situation, if people don't know you as an engineer specializing in X, Y, and Z, how can they refer you? If they think, well, you're an engineer and you're a musician and you're a this and you're a that and you're something or other else, it can be a lot harder. So you need to probably make one particular area the feature, but I sincerely believe that you can manage at least 3 specialties via your LinkedIn profile. But when people get to your summary, as I have here, I've made it fairly clear that they're the areas of specialty that I have. So that makes it a bit easier for people to understand. Okay, thank you for that one questions, Juminda. And we're getting close to the end of our time together. Thank you for all of those people who've stayed with us for the duration. Really appreciate your involvement and participation in this LinkedIn Questions webinar. I will be running another webinar for the Career Development Association in New Zealand coming up later this year. So if you keep an eye on my Google Plus account and see that hangout appear, you're most welcome to join in and participate there if it's a free webinar. And you'll also notice that I have quite a lot of publications and articles. So by all means, go back to any of those articles at any stage and you can read them. So a couple that have been quite popular, one in particular that I really think you should consider, particularly if you are a member of any professional association, is a little bit further down here. Let's just scroll through. How to showcase your professional membership on LinkedIn. So this gives you step by step. You can see 2,309 views. It's been very, very popular. All the steps that you need to do to showcase your skills. So, you know, there's some everyday habits that you can do outside of LinkedIn, but then there's also quite a few tips here on what you can do on LinkedIn. You can mention it in organizations, you can mention it in certifications, in your courses, in publications. Then there's different LinkedIn activity things that you can do and other social media platforms that you can use where you can put your post nominals or your membership status. And please be proud of those results and support your professional association because that improves your profession and the opportunities available there. Also, because this article's been so popular, if you actually make a comment on here, there's a very good chance that somebody will read it. So, you know, if you want to be seen by the people who are even just looking at this article, you know, put in a comment there, and I try and reply to every comment that I receive. So I should be able to reply to that one for you. The other article that's quite popular on my profile, and if we look further at the stats, you know, if you write your own posts, you can get a little bit more information of the types of demographics of the readers and who's responding to it and so on. So that's really quite informative too. And how I rank for profile views. This is a nice, I'm in the top 1% amongst all of my 6,000 odd connections. I'm number 43 out of all of them, and I've got some really high profile people. I'm part of the Australian Human Resources Institute, as I mentioned. I'm number 1 on that list. At NetExpat, I'm number 2. And against professionals like me, I'd have to upgrade to find out that statistic. So, you know, there's some really good data that you can find out on LinkedIn. And if you are a premium member, you can get even more information. One of the things I really love doing is reverse stalking and seeing who's been looking at my profile. So hello, Con. Nice to see you back again on the webinar as well. And, you know, there's always new information to share because the LinkedIn platform is constantly changing. And one of the things I'm really excited about is LinkedIn has purchased Lynda, lynda.com. And that will mean that, you know, if you update your profile and there's a course suitable for that new role, you could be approached by LinkedIn to consider undertaking some training through lynda.com. So, you know, that's another really handy little feature that LinkedIn will have. The other one that a lot of people don't realize you can do is up here on the top menu, you can actually search all the posts. So if I wanted to search all the posts for, I don't know, what topic can I think of? Activity-based workplace design, which is something that one of my clients has some skills in. So if I look for an article on this topic, here we go. Roland has written this article back in July last year. This one, productivity barrel, activity-based costing. Right. Okay. So you can see here that you can actually use LinkedIn as a great way to do a bit of research, you know, from all the posts that are on here. So Pulse is driving this as well as the posts that you can now create on LinkedIn. So really handy to do a search via this one. So you can also check groups for information on that topic. You could look for jobs, you know, so on and so forth. You can even go through your inbox. The other thing I like checking out in my inbox is if I've sent off invitations to people, I like to see who's accepted my profile. So I sent this one off to Dana today and she's accepted. So that's really cool. So Aman has asked me to check his profile as well. So thank you for that, Aman. We'll have a quick look at you now. And really interesting photo in the background. Not quite sure what we're trying to achieve there. But this comment here, active job seeker, I would definitely take out because what happens is when we see that as recruiters, that classifies you as desperate. And the last thing we want is somebody who's desperate. So use that space here to focus on your keywords. So, you know, you've got project twice, so I'd only have that once. So you could say IT project manager and coordinator, business analyst, you could write BI, you could write, you know, all those other sort of keywords that might be relevant to you. In your contact information, skip this 0, take that out completely, because if somebody's calling you from their device, that number won't work. So you could update that. Great that you've got your own, oh, that's only going to Twitter. All right, but if you have your own website, you can put that in there. Terrific that you've got Skype in there also. The fact that you're an Australian permanent resident is good, but I don't think this is the place to put it up front, because it, again, makes you look a little bit desperate. So really just focus on what you can bring. And I realised that this job was in Cairo and it's not local, but if you're doing any sort of consulting work now in Melbourne, even if it's for international companies, please list it as various and make it that you're actually currently employed now. And you can make your location Melbourne because that's where you're living. So it's massaging the message, it's not lying. But, you know, really important to not make yourself look desperate in any way, and really focus on what sorts of roles you're looking for and include your contact information in this summary section as well. 3 minutes to go. Highlighting these countries here could be detracting. So, you know, I'd probably put that more in a sentence and focus more on the skills, you know, database administrators, developers, you know, that kind of stuff. I love your bling. That's all looking good, and that will help you. Your courses is great, but I'd also suggest that if you've got formal qualifications, a degree or whatever, that you list that. Terrific that you've got 4 languages, and I trust that that project goes into a reasonable amount of detail, but does not provide any commercially sensitive information. Great to see you've sorted these into the right order. And again, you've got some more keywords in there. That's looking pretty good. I would definitely take out this information here. Whether you're married or single makes no difference to your ability to do a job. And also, if somebody doesn't like your birth date, you know, the star sign, you might miss out, crazy as it seems. So I wouldn't bother putting that in. Your interests are good, but you can also actually put your keywords in your interest box there as well. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a snapshot of some of the things you can do. If you're not already, I do encourage you, if you're not listening to this webinar live, to connect with me on LinkedIn. So to do that, simply visit my profile. You can put me in the search box and I should pretty much come up, and the blue box would say connect to, you know, say that you've known me. That's fine. I pretty much accept everybody unless they're a spammer, and then I remove it. You know, I'd welcome the connection. I'm happy to answer general quick questions via email. I do obviously encourage you to get more personalised information directly from me through professional advice, if that's going to help you achieve your goals sooner, which I think it will. And thank you for joining this LinkedIn Questions webinar with Sue Ellson, your independent LinkedIn specialist. Bye for now.